In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a Baby Yeti stuffed animal. I know, how cute. This is a very simple sewing project, so you can decide to either hand or machine sew it. It's totally up to you. Anyway, you'll be working with this long pile plush, which is always so much fun, and I'll also show you how to add in the eyes and nose, which is very easy. So I don't speed through this tutorial video because it is designed as a sew along, so you can work right along with me. Anyway, like I always say, download that free printable pattern and let's go. Let's make it. Baby Yeti time. So you're going to need the basic things to get this Baby Yeti complete, and he is actually very simple to make. All of a sudden I just made him a he. So you need your straight pins like always, a point turner especially for the hands and feet, your shears of course as always, your cutout patterns, there was no taping with this one, and your long pile plush, any color you chose or style, and your fabric for the bottom and hands and feet. So we're going to start with the plush and cutting that out. So you're going to turn it over and you're going to make sure that your plush, the hairs are going down, because when you are looking at your completed Yeti, you want the hairs to go down. Okay, so when you cut your patterns, have the hairs coming down towards you, and then when you lay out the pattern, or lay the pattern right on there, okay, we know that the hairs are going in the right way. Or the plush, whatever you want to call that. All right, so when you cut this pattern piece out, okay, and this one has a misprint on it, yours doesn't, so don't even mind mine, ignore that. You're going to cut one out this way, and then you're going to flip it over and cut the other one out the opposite way. So one right side up, the other one right side down. So as usual, you're going to pin it in place, and this is your first time, I'm assuming, working with a long pile plush, and I'm going to warn you ahead of time, these fuzzies and hairs get everywhere. So when I cut plush, I usually have a vacuum cleaner right near me. Because I'm telling you, when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. Okay, so cut this one out first, this way. And I don't recommend cutting plush doubled up. You know, when sometimes we fold it to like double up, so you cut once. It's really good to take your time with it and be just really careful, paying attention to details. Close your scissor all the way down as you work your way around the pattern. Okay, now that I did this side, before I flip it over, I'm going to actually cut out the dart. And now I'm going to do the same with the pattern flipped over. As promised, there are all the hairs. And you'll cut this one out the same way. And now for the Baby Yeti front body, you're going to do the fold here, meaning you're going to fold the right sides of the fabric together, and you're going to place this edge with the arrows right on the edge there, or the fold of our fabric, and we're going to pin it down so it doesn't move, and we're going to cut it out. I just made it, guys, seriously, look at that. It was meant to be. I'm going to place this down with however many pins it takes to keep it from moving. actually going to cut this because I know I don't need the fabric anymore. Okay, one more pin here. And now it is double the fabric. Let me get a longer pin. It is doubled, so take your time, go easy with it. Okay, you're gonna need a little bit more hand strength there to press that scissor down. Okay, now you'll notice when you cut your pieces, this is a scrap, but like when you shake it, there's just fluff and hairs and fibers everywhere. So like I said, have a vacuum cleaner, have something close by so that you can just keep clean and not have it be overwhelming at the end. But it is fun, I do admit. So remember, don't cut where the fold line is. And I'm going to cut out the dart. Okay, and we are good here. So my two back pieces are cut out and the front body's cut out. I'm going to push those aside. And now I'm going to use the brown fabric of mine that is going to be the bottom of my Baby Yeti and his hands and feet. So I'm going to open it up so that I have it facing wrong side up. Just double checking. Yes, wrong side up. Okay, so I'm going to pin down the bottom of the Baby Yeti. I'm going to cut one out of this. And I'm also going to do the hands and the feet. So for the hands and the feet, you're going to do the same thing like you did for the sides. You're going to do the hands because you have to cut out 4. You're going to cut 2 out this way and then 2 out this way. Of course, you can also, depending on whatever fabric you have, if it's not too thick, you can fold it and you can just cut this way and they're ready to go for sewing. So it's up to you how you do it, but you'll need 4 hands cut out and 4 feet cut out and 1 of the bottoms. Okay, so I cut out all of the pieces for the Baby Yeti, and after I cut it out, I removed the paper pattern and I repinned them. So I kept them directly one on top of the other with right sides touching. So it's just easy since they're already cut out that way. I pin them and now they're ready to be sewn. But let's push this aside and focus on the body of the Baby Yeti. What I want you to do now is I want you to sew together the darts. So you're going to bring them together, put 1 or 2 pins, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm going to add 1, and now I'm going to sew from this end all the way up, okay, back stitching on each end. So I'm going to do this one, I'm going to sew this dart, and then the front piece has 2 darts. I'm going to sew them all in a similar manner. I've sewn the darts together and I use the red thread just so you can see my stitching. And what you're going to do now is you're going to take your 2 back pieces and you're going to put them together. And you're going to sew along the back. Now the back of the Baby Yeti, and you can take your paper pattern to compare if you want, is the one that's not as curved. There's 2 of them. One is more curved than the other. You're going to take the 2 sides that are not as curved and you're going to place them together. Just like I'm doing. We're going to pin them. And as you know, we're going to sew them together. Right, one more pin. And back stitching on the ends. So we're just going to sew right across, back stitching on the ends. So now that my back of my Baby Yeti is put together, I'm going to push aside these 2 pieces. And what I'm going to do is put together the hands and feet. So this is like making an interestingly shaped pouch, meaning the flat edge or the straight edge is going to stay open. And you are going to carefully sew all around these curves. All right, and you're going to back stitch on the ends because just like the pouch, this is where we put the most pressure when we turn this right side out. Okay, so you're going to do that to all of the pieces here, even the feet, which I think are a little bit less challenging because there's one less finger here, or whatever you call this little webbed foot of the Yeti. So just as a help if you want, all right? And because you'll see as you're sewing, you may not like, if you've never done such detailed work, you may not like if it doesn't come out exact. You can draw in a guideline, all right? You can draw it in so that you know where you need to sew, if this helps you. Try it out. You probably have extra fabric. Don't feel bad if you need to cut it out again and do it over. Or, like I said, draw in your guideline so you know exactly where you're sewing. And the number one key when you're doing this sewing is slow. That's it. Slow, slow, slow. So that's number one keys. All right, and don't forget to back stitch on the end. Turn right side out, the hands and the feet, and one more. I didn't because I wanted to show you what it is that I do. So I didn't get very close to the edge, and I wanted to show you that you should add your little or cut these little snips very close to the stitching without cutting the stitching. And then if you have leftover here, when you turn it right side out, this won't fit inside the little point there. So what you're going to do is just kind of trim it off. Okay, if you have so much of it extra. And then wherever you have your curves, you're going to snip so that it turns much easier. Then I have extra there, so I'm just going to trim it off. Be very careful not to trim the actual seam or your sewing line. And once you've trimmed it all, you can turn it right side out. See, when you have a little too much left over, it just won't fit when you turn it right side out. It's almost like this is its own little area or pouch, and all that extra fabric won't fit in there, especially mine, because mine is a thick upholstery. And it's challenging, never hard, but challenging to get all the little digits or fingers to turn around. If it's fraying, it's totally normal. You know that by now, and this is when I use my handy dandy chopstick. Okay. Once I've flipped most of it around, I definitely need my chopstick to push out the digits. Sometimes I stick the chopstick from the outside to pull the fingers out. But this is one of those things where you just got to play around with it. See here, sometimes I try to grab from the outside to sort of just pop it out, just to help it. And then I can feel from in here. So it's important to have something to poke and turn around. You definitely need it for this. All right, so my feet, my webbed feet and hands are ready. And now we're gonna move it along. So the next thing you're gonna do now is you are going to actually stuff very little of the hands and feet. So I'm just going to use a tiny, tiny bit. I'm not going to even try to get into the toes. You can. Just going to put a tiny bit in there just to give it a little bit of depth. And I'm going to do that to both the hands and the feet. You can stuff yours more. You can use your chopstick to get into the little webbed toes. It's up to you, but I'm just putting a little bit in all four. Step is to take your front piece, the one that has the 2 darts at the bottom, and you're going to take your hands, and this is the one with the 4 digits. The feet have 3 digits, and what you're going to do is you are going to place these hands on the right side. right in place here. So you can place them lower if you want. You can place them higher. It's up to you. I'm going to place them about here. So one there. Notice how I sort of slanted mine just a little bit, so that when you turn it right side out, his hands are kind of up. Actually, yeah, I'm going to keep his hands up. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to pin this down. You may need 2 pins or 1. You see how you do. So if you overstuffed your hands, you're going to notice it gets a little, you're going to have to fight keeping it down, but you're fine. Keep the hands overstuffed if you want them that way. Then I'm going to make sure these are at the same level. Right? I'm going to pin this one right in place. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take back and you're going to put it right sides together. Okay, so up here you have your center. Now, if your center isn't snipped, you're going to give it a little snippet. You're going to place these together just to find your perfect center. And you are going to give a little snip. I didn't add it onto the pattern because you can do that here. Same thing. So this seam here that you put your 2 fabrics or your plushes together is going to meet up with that snip there. And as I place together, you'll notice I always take the pile and I push it down. I'm going to pin right into that seam. And then of course I'm going to match up the sides as I push the plush in. Right, and I'm going to continue along, sandwiching the hand. Now I'm going to keep in mind that I still have a pin in there, so when I turn it around, it's a good reminder not to get poked. And I'm going to match the opposite side as well. All right, and then as you've probably already guessed, this part is pretty much common sense. You're going to be sewing in a nice arc. So you are, get it? So you're going to sew. You're going to start from this end or this end, whichever one, and you're going to work your way around, keeping the same distance for seam allowance and back stitch. So you're back stitching on the ends and sewing around the arc. Completed the sewing and I backstitched on the ends, and as I turn it right side out, I'm going to remember that I have the pins holding the hands down, so I'm going to be careful not to scratch myself, which I am very good at. So remember, the back is has the line, seam line. So that's the back. This is our front. And you must admit, this is a very simple project to put together. Here he is. And the next step here is to choose the eyes and nose. So what I've chosen is a brown nose this time. I think it's a, I can't. Brown nose with these longer type eyes. So what I like to do, and what I always like to do, is I like to stuff just a little before I actually place the eyes, so that this has a little bit of a form, so I know exactly where I'm placing the pieces. I think I have a pin in there, do I? Shame on me, I do. And as promised, I scratched myself. Okay, here we go. So this is really cute. I mean, just the fluffiness, it's like so adorable. Anyway, this is my front. Make sure you're working with your front. Your 2 darts are at the bottom. You know that's the front. You're going to place the eyes wherever you want them. Runaway eyes. I think this time I'm going to make them close together. There's something so cute when you see eyes close together. So here's how I do this. I press where I want it in, right? And I know it's right here that I want it. And what I'm going to do is I know it's there. So I'm just going to mark it just quickly with a pencil. I'm going to place my other one right there, close by. I know I shouldn't have moved it, but I want it there, and I'm going to mark the back too. I'm just going to make sure it's along the same line, so it's about there. Okay, so mine are going to be really close together. And for this, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to cut at all. I'm just going to pierce a little hole. Guys, when I say little, I mean little, little, little. I'm just going to slightly, barely make a hole. Don't dare cut because your eye can actually end up falling all the way through. So I'm just ripping one little fiber just so I could get the eye in. Okay, I don't want it to be large because just in case you're giving this to a child, you want it to be safe and definitely not fall through. All right, let's see where we are here. So as I'm attempting to press it through, I realize the little hole I made is not large enough, so I'm going to snip just a bit to help it through, and then I'm going to put the clasp on. There we go, press it all the way down, and then we get the clasp on as tight as possible. And we're going to do the same exact thing for the other eye. I've gone ahead and added both the eyes and the nose in the same way that I added the first eye. And I'll show you once it's all done and stuffed how you can trim the plush if you don't want it to have this look of concealed eyes, which honestly, this is really cute as is, but it's whatever look you want. You can actually trim that. So what you're going to do now is you're going to take the plush out. You're going to turn it wrong side out. And this is your back where you see the full seam. Oops, stuffing. You see the full seam, that's your back, and obviously that's your front. So you're going to take the bottom piece and you're going to fold it in half, and you're going to make a little snippet there. And as it's folded perfectly in half, you'll make another little snippet there. And then you're going to take your feet and you are going to place them on the front. Now I use these darts. Look at me. I didn't clean up that stuffing well. You can use the darts as placement. You can place them closer. You can place them outside the dart, wherever you want. I'm going to use the dart as the center. So notice how I put my feet facing in, and the larger toe, I decide I want it to be on the inside, like, you know, just like your toes when you look down at your feet. So when you look at the feet, one of them is a little larger. And if you didn't sew it a little larger, who cares? Your Yeti has its own personality. So I'm going to place it down here, inside, onto the right side. And again, I'm going to add a pin to hold this in place. Possibly, oh, I think I'll be good with one. And the other one too, I'm going to line up this dart along the center here. Right, place it down. And now the last thing to do is to place this bottom piece on. And what the great thing is when we look at the back, these two darts are going to serve as the opening that we're going to leave open so we can stuff. So there's no marking or snipping to be made because they serve as a perfect point. So with right sides together, I'm going to place it down. So when I open it up, this is the right side and that in there is the right side. I'm going to match my first snippet to my side seam. And for this area, I feel like I need 2 pins to hold it down. Stuff that plush in. And then I'm going to go, before I do anything else, and I'm going to match this other here, side seam, with my snippet mark. Right. Now that my back is on, or the bottom piece, I am going to, like I mentioned before, this is going to be my opening, so I'm going to sew from this dart all the way around up to this dart, back stitching on the ends. I've sewn the bottom on and I just flipped it right side out. And how adorable is he already? So cute. So you're going to make sure, you're going to run your hand along and make sure that all of the seams are tight and well. And my red is sticking out, so I'll take care of that after. And now what I'm going to do is stuff it. Through the back opening, I'm going to push in all of my stuffing. And you see him come alive. This is the one project that you kind of can take a bunch and stuff in, but you be the judge of yours and how yours is coming out. Here. And let me show you a trick for the seams. So here's the trick. Using a hairbrush, I go towards the seams and I brush. You see where you see the plush here stuck in the seam? If you use a brush, it actually, a regular hairbrush, it actually pulls that hair out and makes it look nicer. And even in the seam on the back, I don't see mine, but if you see yours, because you probably didn't tuck the plush in as you sewed, what you do is you just give it a brush and it fixes that. That's a cool little trick. Okay, as I make more fuzzies everywhere. So I'm going to continue stuffing it until I have it at a good point. My Yeti is stuffed to a point I like, and now we're going to close up the back. So I'm going to use my thinner pins because this fabric is a bit thick. And I'm going to turn in my plush just a little, fold it in, and the bottom as well. I'm going to fold it in, and I'm going to make them meet. And I'm going to do this along the edge because we're going to need to do the invisible stitch here. And this part we are going to do by hand, just to give it a very good clean look. Now that this is pinned in place, I'm ready to get started. So I have my double threaded needle with white to coordinate with the plush, and I am going to get started. Let me just get in a little closer. And I'm going to get started. So with the plush, it is forgiving, so do not worry if you feel like, oh my goodness, I'm not on the inside area. Of course, the first time I start, this happens. There we go. You know me, I leave all the little mishaps in, so you can see it is normal. And I'm going to do my invisible stitch. It's the same method as we used in the past. Just do your best to find the actual fabric and material of the plush. Make sure you're not just grabbing plush. And you're going to work your way around to the end. And the plush is forgiving, so it does hide if you're a little off. That's the good thing about this. Finish my opening with the blind stitch, and I'm going to use my brush to fluff it up and take that plush out of the seam there if there's any stuck. If not, you're good. Okay, and it's pretty much done, but now it's your choice if you want to trim the fibers, or I should say the hairs around the eyes. So it's totally up to you if you want to just go in and clip a little. Now remember, when you're cutting the plush, you can always take away, but you can't put back. So what that means is cut very little at a time. I'm going to use the brush here too, because some of them are stuck where the eye is. So again, you can keep the look like this because that's really, really cute. But if you want to trim it a little, just so you could see, just find the hairs that are right in front of the eyes to trim it. And play with it. Just go slow with it. And little does it. I think I'm going to leave mine covered because I like it. Anyhow, your Baby Yeti is... And if you like DIY sewing videos for plushies like this, why don't you check out my Mama Duck and Ducklings plushie videos? Same as this, download the pattern and make these as well. They're so cute. Anyway, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.